So what happens if the Nashville Predators can't turn this hockey Titanic around before Christmas? We'll discuss how best to brace for impact. Plus, the Preds hope to break this losing streak, but they're going to have to do it against the Dallas Stars and without Roman Josi. We'll share the latest news on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, Junior, as we call Thursdays around here, to everyone. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off our game day episode, of course, shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders community. We love you guys, and also welcoming any first-time listeners to our show. We appreciate your support, and we love breaking down what is going on with this Nashville Predators team with you all. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer with Penalty Box Radio, and my friends, you all know I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
Well, great poet and philosopher Amy Grant once sang, "It takes a little time sometimes to get the Titanic turned back around." Well, that may be true, but the Nashville Predators are still heading straight for the iceberg if they cannot right this ship, especially tonight against Central Division rival Dallas Stars and, of course, former Nashville Predator Matt Duchene, who believes that revenge is best served on ice. We're going to preview that game. We're also going to take a look at what could happen to the roster if/when the Predators concede this season. A lot to get to today, but before we dive in, want to let you know today's episode is sponsored by our friends at FanDuel. You can get started with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet. You're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Emma, I am kicking off this show with a smattering of Titanic references because, dear God, does it not feel appropriate? But, okay, I did want to ask you, and this is non-hockey related, y'all, but bear with us because sometimes we have to ask the hard-hitting questions. Did you like the Titanic movie when it came out?
Well, like when it came out, like I don't think
or just in general.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of cheesy, but I think if you accept it and appreciate it for what it is, I'm like, yeah, that's fine. It's one of those where like I watched it and I'm like, okay, check. Like I don't really feel the need to watch it again.
It's the perfect Saturday afternoon channel flipping movie. Like if you have to like clean the house or something, Titanic's a great flick to have on. I will be honest with you, when it first came out, I was righteously indignant because I'm like, first of all, spoiler alert, the ship sinks. Everybody knows it. Why are you watching this movie? But here is what I will say. The theater major in me fell in love with this movie and the costumes. And it happened the minute, and this is something that's going to happen on this podcast one day, Emma. Do you remember the scene where you first are introduced to Kate Winslet and she gets out of the carriage in this amazing hat and she's kind of angled down and then she looks up and you see her face? I'm going to open the show one day with an amazing hat looking down, and then I'm going to look up and you're going to see my face and you're going to be like,
perhaps the 10-gallon foam hat.
You all buckle up and tune in on YouTube because like I just like that's the costumes were amazing, but like that scene, so iconic. I was like, all right, it's okay with me that she stole a gazillion-dollar necklace and hid it from her family for 84 years, but you know, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, Titanic just really feels like a horrible parallel to this Nashville Predators season. I think fans were promised like an unsinkable luxury liner, and pretty much the season's headed straight for the iceberg. MoneyPuck.com says that, interestingly, San Jose has been statistically eliminated from the postseason, but Nashville has a 2.5% chance of still making the postseason. So you're saying there's a chance. I mean, in the off season, Emma, if I had seen a 2.5% chance of the Predators, like a chance that low at like Nashville making the Stanley Cup Finals, I would have been outraged. Like, of course, it should be more than 2.5% chance to make the Stanley Cup Finals because this roster is amazing. Underperforming is one way to describe what we've seen from this roster. Moneypuck.com also incidentally says Nashville has a 7.3% chance of winning the first overall pick in the next draft. So we have a better chance of getting the first overall pick right now than this team does of making the postseason. Things are crazy. We are in crazy, crazy land. And look, I don't sit and dig into how they factor these odds, but just know that the odds are bad and things just got worse because Roman Josi left the game against Calgary after the first period, did not return. He has a lower body injury. I don't think as of the time of recording, we have a time frame for his return yet. Emma, have you seen anything? We don't know day to day. If I had to guess, pure speculation, week to week would be my guess, but that is unconfirmed, pure speculation. What we do suspect is that Roman Josi is out tonight. Kevin Gravel has been recalled from the Milwaukee Admirals, and that seems to indicate probably we're not going to see Josi. Emma, how do you quantify what not having Josi in the lineup means for this team? Not just tonight, but just with that 2.5% chance of making the postseason if he's out week to week or whatever.
I mean, we saw it in the 2 periods he didn't play against Calgary. I mean, this is a guy that you can't replace. I mean, you can replace the body on the ice, but I mean, he does so many things so well. He's always, he leads an ice time every game. He can play on the power play. He, for a while was their only offense at 5-on-5. He can play either side. I mean, he really is. He's a guy that you're really going to miss on this lineup. And I think that it's, for no matter how long he's out for, this is kind of the ultimate opportunity for everyone else to really step up their game and kind of rally around each other. And you kind of see that you've seen it with other teams too. Like earlier this season, Austin Matthews missed some time with that mystery injury. The Maple Leafs actually played better without him because you could just kind of tell that it was like everyone kind of rallies and picks up the slack. And so you got to hope that this team is capable of doing that. But right now it's hard to really quantify or guess, exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. It would be like if, the captain of the Titanic fell overboard right as they hit the iceberg. Like, who's going to tell everybody to go to the lifeboats? Who's going to this is such a big loss. And I think you make a great point. For a stretch of time, Roman Josi was the offense, not just the captain, the offense for this team.
But now, if you want to look at positives,
we do.
We saw on Tuesday against Calgary, we saw some signs of life from elsewhere, from the actual forwards on offense. So that's a positive. You think, okay, if they can carry that through, another positive, if you want to think about it, against, they're facing Dallas tonight. Not a incredibly deep defensive core there in Dallas. And so again, if you're looking for things to capitalize on, it's all there. They just got to grab the opportunity.
Yep. The Predators, like I said, have recalled Kevin Gravel. This is a Michigan boy reunited. Isn't Cole Smith a Michigan boy too?
He's a Minnesota boy.
Minnesota, Michigan. He's an upper Midwest boy.
Michael McCarron's a Michigan boy.
that's who I was like, I know there's a Michigan boy. So there's going to be some Michigan boys out there. Kevin Gravel, look, 32 years old. This is not his first stint in the NHL. He's played 132 NHL games. Last time we saw him for a stretch of time was back in the 2022-23 season, where literally they were dropping like flies. I mean, they were dropping like flies, y'all. And he played 23 games in that season. Of course, he's been in Milwaukee. He's played 20 games, 1 goal, 5 points. So this is not an unexpected call up. Maybe not the most glamorous call up. Look, full disclosure, secretly, I'm like, call up Ryan Ufko. Do it. But they called up Kevin Gravel. And I think this is a good call up. This is somebody who is not unfamiliar with the NHL, somebody who has played solidly. So you're not going to get a ton of offensive push from Kevin Gravel, but you are going to get somebody who has been in the NHL, who has played defensively in the NHL. So, that's who we are likely to see in the lineup tonight, sans Roman Josi. Coming up, we are going to take a closer look at this Dallas game with Josi likely out. Who is the one player Emma and I both think could step up and make a difference for the Nashville Predators? We're going to tell you. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Just like your favorite sports teams, we are all driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/locked on. Just go to Indeed.com/locked on right now and let them know you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Again, that's Indeed.com/locked on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Today's show is also sponsored by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it is all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of that game, you can check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more, and it's all on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, you're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Emma, if you were looking for a game for the Nashville Predators to bounce back and dig their way out and get back in the win column after losing 8 straight, this is probably not the game you would go for. The Nashville Predators take on, oh, heaven help us, the Dallas Stars, a team we will all remember spanked the Predators last season 9-2, but as insider Henry wants to point out, hey, if we lose 9-2, we're going to go on an 18-game point streak, baby. This could be big. I don't know, man. The Dallas Stars 17-10-0. They're 6-4 in their last 10. They have beaten in that 10-game stretch Utah, Winnipeg, Tampa Bay, San Jose, Calgary, Colorado. Interestingly, they did lose to the Chicago Blackhawks, one of their 4 losses. I just thought, that might make somebody feel a little bit better, but not by much. So Emma, let's just toss this out here. Who do you think, if you had to just close your eyes and guess based on vibes alone, who would you guess is the points leader right now for the Dallas Stars?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe Matt Duchene?
Lord help us, y'all. Matt Duchene, 29 points, 12 goals. Flourishing. Matt Duchene is out living his best life in Dallas after what was handled very professionally from both parties. But I'm just going to go out on a limb and say had to be maybe not the smoothest, sweetest breakup a couple of seasons ago. Yeah, Matt Duchene flourishing in Dallas. Of course, he's playing a little bit of a different role in Dallas, but doing really, really well. This is a team that I think I love the way this team is constructed because you have such a good mix. You've got like the youth, you've got Wyatt Johnston, who I love him. You've got Jason Robertson, who will be considered youth. He's 25 years old. I do not believe for a minute he can grow one whisker. Jason Robertson, 25 years old, but I still think of him as youth. What a fun player to watch when your team is not playing them. Of course, you've got great veterans performing really, really well. We've talked about Matt Duchene. You've got Rupe Hintz. You can go down the list. This is just a really well constructed roster right now for Dallas.
Yes. And I always kind of find myself almost rooting for Dallas a little bit. Not in this game, obviously, but just in general as an organization, because I think that if they can, they could almost be proof positive that it is possible to sort of build internally and construct your roster from within. And obviously they've had the free agent signings, but they've been able to build a really deep team.
Yeah.
And now, that said, they are without Tyler Seguin, who is now out for the rest of the year with that hip injury. They have, there have been some guys, you mentioned Robertson, like maybe who have kind of not quite stepped up the way you would have thought they would this year. And so, Seguin being out, I think helps that or gives them an opportunity to do that. They've also got a Calder Trophy candidate in Logan Stankoven.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
So they've got a lot of they have almost like the perfect ratio, the perfect mix of like veteran leadership and young talent. I did mention though, defense is an area where, if you got to pick an area where this team lacks, it's probably on defense. They lost Chris Tanev last year, that after they got him in free agency, that was a big loss for them. And so they signed Matt Dumba. That contract's already not aging that well. And so I think that you need to, looking at them moving forward, probably, with Seguin out, they haven't put him on LTIR yet, but assuming they will before the trade deadline, and they can go out and maybe get someone and make a run at it. But yeah, I think this is one of those teams that, unlike the Predators, with, when Roman Josi goes down, you're like, oh crap. Yeah. Like, what are they going to do? And like, obviously Tyler Seguin was on pace for a career year. Like he was, part of that really electric top line with Duchene and Mason Marchment. So it's obviously a loss for them, but you don't think it doesn't quite have the same effect as like, oh, well, season's over. Like we're not scoring any points, because it's like they have a lot of depth and guys who can do that. And so that's something where, it's a big loss for them to be sure, but I think that they've got the pieces in place to be able to rally around it. Whereas Nashville, at the beginning of the struggling. At the beginning of the season, I would have thought like, yes, obviously that would be horrible if Roman Josi got injured, but I think they'd probably like be okay. And now I'm like, they're not even okay without or with him. So like, it's a little dicey,
Yeah, this is going to be a tough game for the Predators. You talked about like the defense maybe is, if you're trying to look for like a soft underbelly, maybe it is that for Dallas. But Jake Ottinger has been pretty dang good in net for them. And I think his play has helped Dallas. Right now, Dallas allows the 5th fewest goals against. They are 4th when it comes to goal differential. And then we have the Nashville Predators, who literally can't score a goal. Although, let's be honest, built momentum in that Calgary game.
They scored 3 very nice goals
Not
against
just,
Calgary.
yes,
They
not
were
just
very
goals.
nice.
They were the kind of offensive goals we thought we would be seeing.
Chef's kiss goals. Now, to bring us back to earth, though, they also led 3 times and then they lost the lead 3 times. Problematic, yes, and that is not something that you can do against Dallas or really any team, but especially against Dallas. And talking about the goaltending too, we don't know yet at time of recording who is going to be in net for Dallas, but their backup is Casey DeSmith, who as we remember from the playoffs last year, ran into him before he went down with an injury, and he's nothing to sneeze at either. So. Really, really solid duo back there for Dallas. Again, they're a very complete team. I think that defense is one thing. The power play is another. They've struggled with like giving up shorthanded goals on the power play. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know that that's been an issue for them. So I think that again, if you're looking, you got to look for all of the possible, like the weak spots and try to exploit those where you can.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of those games where somebody's have to really step up if Nashville wants to be competitive in this game. And when I look at who we need the most out of, and I hate to say this because quite frankly, it's unfair, but UC Saros. We're going to need a really great game from Saros. I don't know that Saros had his best game against Calgary, but I think we're going to need Saros's best game tonight, just because when Nashville struggles to score goals, you're just not going to win games. And like we said, they picked up some momentum. We saw some great offensive plays from Nashville, even some plays that, of course, didn't result in goals, but really there were a couple lines that were generating some things. It would be really great if we could get Saros to make some of those vintage saves that keeps this game close. I think he's going to be key. If you had to name one player, Emma, on the Preds roster who could be a game changer, sans Roman Josi, against this Dallas Stars team, who would you say, look, if this player steps up, it's going to really help this team?
Well, I think there are several candidates for that, to be honest. But I think when it comes to, like I said, there's no replacing Roman. But a guy who, if he steps up, could really make a difference, I think, is Brady Skjei. And I think that he's a guy who, presumably with Josi out, Skjei, when Josi was out in the last game, Skjei moved up and quarterbacked that top power play unit. He usually quarterbacks the second unit. That could be a role for Kevin Gravel now because he's played that role in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I just think that Skjei is, Skjei has a lot of upside. Again, I know I've talked about this before from covering him in Carolina, but he can be very impactful on special teams. And I don't know that we've really seen that from him yet since he's been in Nashville. But if you elevate him into this role, I think that he has the capability to, again, no one is going to be Roman, but I think that if you look at the defensemen who are in there now for Nashville, Skjei is really the only one that kind of has the offensive upside, I think, because guys like, Alex Carrier is out with, he's, what is it, week to week upper body?
Week to week upper body, yeah.
And then you've got Jeremy Lauzon is out. He's not really an offensive threat, but then you've got Nick Blankenberg and Luke Shen and Adam Wilsby, who, like, Blankenberg and Wilsby, I know I've talked about many times have been very impressive to me, but they are
Yeah.
they're not going to be your offensive defenseman, and that they're not supposed to be. And
Mhm.
that's fine. That's not their role. That's not their game. I think, a guy like Mark Del Gaizo could step up offensively, but again,
Come on.
when he's on the third pairing with Luke Shen, that's not really a place for him to thrive in that kind of role. So I think for me, from, the body of work that I've seen, I really just think that Skjei has the size, he has the skating ability, he has the scoring touch, he has the special teams experience, where I think that he's a guy who, if he can really have a strong game, a strong performance, then that is going to go a long way.
Yeah. Well, and you need that veteran, a veteran on the blue line to step up. And really that falls to Brady Skjei. And I don't mean that as a diss against Luke Shen, but really if you're looking for somebody to sort of step in and try to do some of the things that Roman Josi does, it's Brady Skjei. You look, Kevin Gravel, Mark Del Gaizo, Mr. Blankenberg, Adam Wilsby, combined 227 NHL career games combined. Now, you did mention this. I am here for a Mark Del Gaizo first NHL goal tonight.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there.
We're
We'll see
always
what
here
happens.
for a Mark Del
I
Gaizo
mean,
first
this is
NHL
locked
goal.
on Mark Del Gaizo, but I would love to see that. Coming up, we got to talk about the ifs. What if the Nashville Predators can't get this sinking ship turned around before Christmas? We've speculated a lot about coaching. We're going to talk about what that could mean for the roster. Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. If you love sports, you are going to love Prize Picks. It's the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it is hockey or football or any of your other favorite sports, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on all the action. Here is why you need to get started at Prize Picks today. You can win up to 200 times your money on Prize Picks. You also can get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. There is no need to win. That $50 is guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers all kinds of fun weekly promotions. They have a Taco Tuesday, y'all. Now it's Thursday, but make sure you play on Tuesday for Taco Tuesday. And on Taco Tuesday, select player projections are discounted up to 25%. Great deals all the time there. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use our code LOCKEDONNHL and you're going to get $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly. So check it all out at Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, Emma, we are talking about this upcoming slate of games. The Nashville Predators 2.5 something. So you're saying there's a chance to make the postseason. Here's what Nashville is facing before Christmas. Tonight, Dallas. Saturday night in Colorado. They're also going to play the Rangers, Pittsburgh, the LA Kings, and Carolina before Christmas. They come back from Christmas and they play St. Louis, Winnipeg, and Minnesota to wrap up the new year. This is not an easy schedule to turn things around before Christmas, before the end of the year. And of course, there's tons of talk around town about what this means for Andrew Brunette. Will he get fired? Will he not get fired? Should Barry Trotz replace him? Should Barry Trotz not replace him? This team is underperformed. What do you do with the coach? Well, let's talk about what happens with the roster. Chatting with our Locked On Predators insiders, and Tanner had a great question, and we had kind of a fun conversation about this. Tanner's question is, if the Predators don't improve in the next few weeks, do you think they will trade one or more of our big name players for draft capital, or are they going to stick with this core for next season? I think I think you have to really start thinking about these things, because when you look at the schedule, it's going to be tough for Nashville to turn this around. And I think losing Roman Josi just exponentially complicates a turnaround for this team. But when you look at what is upcoming, when you look at where this team is, Emma, what kind of changes could the roster see?
I mean, not many, unfortunately, because of all, when you talk about big name players, I mean, all of the no move and no trade clauses on this roster include like Josi, Philip
Mhm.
Forsberg, Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault. I mean, there's just not a ton that you can do there. I mean, looking at a guy you could trade, for example, like a Gus Nyquist, he's going to be a free agent after this season anyway, though. So he's probably not going to demand much of a return. Like he would be a guy that he's a guy that you don't just trade him just to trade him. Like I think that you got to be able to get something good in return. But again, he doesn't have any team control after this year. He's probably not going to net you much in terms of a return. And I mean, you could trade Ryan O'Reilly, I guess, but even that, it's like, how does that help you? I just don't know that that
Mhm.
really helps when this is a team that's already very thin down the middle. So
Yeah.
I understand the question. It's a valid question, but I just realistically there's not a whole lot you can do here. I think again the guys who are technically tradable are not going to be the guys who are going to net the kind of return, like difference making return that you would be looking for. Um
Yeah.
so I mean, Colton Sisson's name comes up every year, it feels like, in trade talks
Mhm.
because he is very affordable, and he does a lot of things very well, that Swiss Army knife. But again, I just don't know. He's 30 years old. I think that, or 31. I think that, again, yes, I understand offloading things like that, but even that is $2.5 million. That's not really doing a whole lot for you,
Yeah.
in terms of cap space. So I it's a valid question. I just personally don't know, if you're looking long term, I don't know that trading like any of the guys who could be traded this year.
Mhm.
I don't know that trading any of them now is going to help you all that much, but I mean, you never know. Like, could be
Yeah.
another Tanner Jeannot situation where
Ooh,
Tampa
that
wants
was
to give you
insane.
Tampa wants to give you their whole draft class for Tanner Jeannot. So I mean, you never know, but I
Yeah.
just realistically, I'm
Yeah.
not totally sure.
Even if a player like Yossi or Forsberg didn't have a no move clause, Barry Trotz is not moving them. When he came in, I think he was very clear like, look, the foundation, the backbone of this team is we've got this goaltender in UC Saros. We've got this Norris Trophy winner in Roman Josi, and we have got an offensive threat, a high skill forward in Philip Forsberg. So I think those guys are guys that Barry Trotz is all in on. And I don't think you could pry those guys, regardless of the no move clause. You couldn't pry them out of Barry Trotz's cold dead hand. When you look at somebody like Colton Sissons, who you could move, aside from the logistics of it, I think that is such a bad move, because the one thing that, and you can criticize Barry Trotz, and people are, about a lot of things that he's done, but here's the one thing that Barry Trotz deserves a ton of credit for. All that he did in this offseason was spend money. He did not leverage anything about a youth movement, the future of this team. And when I look at the Nashville Predators, Colton Sissons, Mr. Potato Head, this is a guy that you want when you're bringing up young players. We've heard Andrew Burnett say it in 2 seasons in a row. He is a security blanket for young players. That's somebody that I think is going to be important. And I don't think you're going to get enough, like you said, in return to make up for what you lose. I did see the most horrifying thing on Puckpedia's Puck GM. It was a Ryan O'Reilly trade proposal. And it was O'Reilly to Toronto. Nashville retains $1 million in salary. And then Nashville gets Nick Robertson. He's a 23-year-old left winger. They get Fraser Minton, who's a 20-year-old center. He was a second round pick in 2022. Really interesting young little fella. And then 3 different draft picks, a first, a third, and a sixth over 3 different draft seasons. That
I'm
ain't never
sorry.
going to
Who
happen.
who came up with this trade proposal? Because
Yeah,
that
this is
is
this is you get to be your own general manager. And I thought, let me tell you the things that aren't going to happen. First of all, I don't think Barry Trotz is retaining salary on anybody. Period. Second of all, I love the Fraser Minton piece. This is somebody I would love to get in Nashville, but I don't think Toronto would put him out there. And as much as Toronto wants like a depth center, and Ryan O'Reilly is like the guy that you can rely on. Yeah, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So I just to put together a package that makes sense for a team that wants one of these veterans, and for Barry Trotz to feel like he is getting what he wants in return. I just think it's tough. There's not a lot to move on this roster.
Yep.
And the pieces that you could move are pieces like Colton Sissons. I really feel like they do not want to move him. I just don't think you're going to get back what you want. But anyway, we're going to have to wait and see. Because you know what? Anything could happen tonight in Dallas. I mean, you're saying there's a chance. We're going to wait and see. I mean, can the Nashville Predators start steering the Titanic away from the iceberg tonight in Dallas without Roman Josi? We're going to have to kind of wait and see how that happens and see what happens with this team, with this coaching staff, with this roster as the Predators try to break this losing streak. Of course, we will be back tomorrow. We're going to recap whatever we see happen in Dallas. We'll give you updates on Roman Josi as we have them and talk about, hey, what's the next move before Colorado on Saturday? So be sure you tune in on tomorrow's show. Before we sign off, Emma, where can everyone find you and your work?
You can find me on social media at Emma_Lingen, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
And you can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio as well. That is going to do it for today's episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We're going to be back tomorrow with that game recap. We'll see you then.